Hey, welcome back everyone. So in this follow series of JavaScript, we're going to see about the episode number 4. Okay, so we're going to cover an important topic and also a biggest paradigm. It is going to be the get start for the biggest paradigm. So we're going to cover that. So what are the topics that we're going to cover today? It's going to be undefined. What is the difference between undefined versus not defined? Okay, we're going to see this, and we also discussing about scope chain. So in the previous class itself, we have given us some ideas about how the scope chain works and how it is works and all. So today we're going to see and much more brief, and we're going to get a quick recall also, and we're going to cover each and everything regarding scope chain. Okay, so what we can do is just go here. First we will discuss about what is the difference between undefined and non-defined. So the first thing you need to understand, undefined is not empty. So if I say undefined, most people say this is equal to empty, right? So people say it is an empty and does not have any values. Likewise, it is undefined is there. And you can notice that undefined is one of the special keywords that is available in JavaScript, which is not particularly available in other programming language, right? So why it is useful for? Because this undefined is here because of the memory allocation that is done by JavaScript, the JavaScript engine. We have already discussed that JavaScript engines does the memory allocation before the code is executed, right? For example, I say let will create a variable for a equal to 10. So what happened, the engine do a memory allocation before the code, the line of code is executed, it will do the memory allocation, right? So that is why the concept arises hoisting, right? So what is the meaning of hoisting? If I say hoisting, so what it is going to be, what is going to be? So hoisting is the concept of allocating memory and variable function to the top of the document, and if it is a variable it is partially hoisted, and if it is a function that is fully hoisted, right? So which means we can able to access this variable before this value is assigned to it, right? So for example, if I ask for here just log v console.log a, if I run this code, we will get this undefined. Instead of not defined, we are getting this undefined. So if I remove this from the memory, if I remove this from my code, I comment it off. Now I ask for console.log a. Now it is going to produce me not defined, which means there is something fishy, right? So we have right now you can able to understand that undefined is not the same thing of not defined, which means not defined is simply that particular variable is not exist, but undefined, the variable is exist, but somehow it is producing undefined and we need to find that. Let's see what is happening here. So because of the hoisting the JavaScript engine is doing, what happened when we declare a variable? So we know the global execution context, so we know how the call stack will work. So let us go here and I create my call stack. So in the top of it, what happened, the global execution context, right? So global GEC, global execution context is evoked. So this global execution context have two things. One is going to be the memory space, and also it is going to have the code. So in memory, what happened? So we know that what are the things in the memory, the global execution context store. Well, we know about the windows, that this reference, it will show, it will store that, and also whatever the variables that we are declaring here in the global execution context, we are declaring with the var keyword, it will be in the global execution context, and also it is also store the functions in the global, right? So whatever we are declaring globally, it will go under the memory, right? It will go and store it, and inside this memory what is happening, the memory allocation has happened. So we know that the hoisting process is also inside the creation phase. So what the hoisting phase will do, before the JavaScript engine start read each and every line of code, it will allocate some memory, right? It will see what are the memory space I need to allocate. Okay, if it is a variable, then I need to allocate some memory space in my global execution context, let a is equal to undefined, and if it is a function, then we will fully allocate it, right? So for example, I will say like something like this. If I have a function, sorry, I just create a function, and this function b, is going to have something, right? So now in the global execution context, though var variable has stored their variable in the global execution context, so now what it is going to do, it is stored a as undefined before the code get executed. So I'm speaking about the hoisting, so how the memory allocation happen. Okay, so what is going to happen, so the way variable is gets stored a is equal to undefined, a is equal to undefined, and then we just going to see about the b keyword. So the b is going to be here, b variable undefined is here, and the b variable execution will be here. So it is fully hoisted, but memory space the var variable is partially hoisted. So now what happened, when JavaScript read this line of code, it will allocate the memory as 10. So that is why whenever we are asking to here console.log a in the code space, first it is undefined, and now if I ask for console.log a, it will executes in the code space, and console.log a, so it will what it is producing me, it will producing me the value of a. Right now it is undefined. So once it reaches the second line, now what happened, it is changed to 10. So this 10 is now, if I ask below this console.log a, now what happened, the memory allocation for a is done with the replaced value, and memory allocation for the function is done, and also the console.log a now it is going to print me 10, right? So initially it is undefined and it is get replaced and it is going to print me 10. So now let us see this. You can able to see the undefined when the memory hoisting allocation is takes place, and it prints the value 10 when we print this console.log a. Okay, so that's what happened, right? So we know that this is because of the hoisting, it takes place in this engine, right? So now you can understand that what exactly undefined is. So undefined is a special keyword that is used to occupy the space, and whenever I want to replace it, I can able to replace it. It's simply like placing a friend in the long queue. Okay, so and whenever you have time, you can go and you can replace your friend. So like, so I'm placing an undefined, that is a temporary keyword that is going to occupy this a variable for me, and whenever I want to give some value to it, I can able to give value to that. Okay, so this is what we can able to achieve with this undefined. And not defined is something, it's not exist in the entire document, it is completely different. And undefined by default happens because of the JavaScript engines, it is allocates memory for each and every global execution context, and it will do it. And we know that it's not only this memory allocations is happen for global execution context, but also for the functions that we are creating, it will do that. So right now if I call the b, now the function is allocate for here also, right? So now if I call inside this, I just say console.log c like this, and I say var c is equal to 10, and if I log for console.log c, so now what it is going to happen, well, this is the assignment that we have given in the before class itself. Well, so the global execution, the memory allocation is not happen, the hoisting is not only happen in the global execution context only, but also for each and every execution context that is created. For example, right now the b is evoked, right? So it is in the b code here. So the b is evoked. So once the b is evoked, what happened, the b function is going to create two things for us, that is going to be the memory, which means the creating phase and the code to run phase. So it will create two things, and in the memory we going to get what we are going to get, we are going to get whatever the variable that inside it and whatever the function that inside it. So right now the variable inside is c, so the memory allocation happens c is equal to undefined. So if someone evokes something accessing the variable before the allocation is happened, so now first what has happened, the code executed, they ask for console.log a, so the log a is going to be undefined, and after they reached this code, what happened, it is changed to 10, and now what happened, if they ask for console.log c, this variable is going to be 10. So the output is going to be undefined. Now we are going to get undefined and 10, and same thing here, I just say 12, here we're going to get undefined and 12. Let me see how it is working. If I run this code, you can able to see undefined and 10, here it is, And now if I want to run this code, here in the below I just execute this, and the global execution context is executing the code, and now this memory space is created. So here the hoisting is takes place. So here it is on top of it, the undefined will become, and here it will be going to get the 12. So if I run this code, you can see undefined 10 and undefined 10, 12. So the hoistings takes place in each and every execution context. The memory allocation, which means the memory allocation takes place in each and every execution context. The variables are partially hoisted, and the what and the functions are fully hoisted. This what it will takes place. So undefined is like a temporarily some with this keyword we are occupying the space, and whenever we assign some value it will takes place it. So it is good to, that is the purpose that undefined is has been meant for. So it is not equal to empty, it is like filling up the place, taking up the memory, and whenever we want we can able to replace and it will be executed. So it is purposely meant for the JavaScript, and it has no use that we are declaring a variable and giving us undefined. Well, that is not used where, even though that is not a problem, but it is not uh, it doesn't have any sense to use that undefined keyword for a variable, okay, because it is automatically happened, we don't want to do this. So why it is happen, why it is happening, and why this is more like when you work with some statically programming language, it is pretty confusing, right? So this is because JavaScript is a loosely typed language, which means we can call it as a weakly typed programming language. It doesn't mean that JavaScript is a weak language. So which means what is meant by weakly typed language means when I declare a variable like let uh, a equal to 10, now it is a number, right? So I can in future I can able to give a string inside also, I can able to give a string, and after I can able to give and boolean inside also, I can able to give true. Like this I can able to assign a value, so it will automatically converts its their data type towards any other things in the future. So it is not stick to the data types that it has been declared, right? We can able to do this, it's just more flexible in that way. So this is the concept of type conversion, and this concept will we will see in our core series also, we will discuss that particularly. So this is the reason right now when we have undefined, so that is a special keyword, and after that we can able to give a string or a number or anything that we can achieve it with. So with the help of that we can able to use the memory allocations, and we can able to work on the hoistings, and we can able to do this. Okay, so this is what the difference between undefined and not defined. So undefined is like a temporarily some, the keyword is occupying the space and later it will be replaced. And we know that we purposely we are giving that particular thing as undefined. But not defined is something that is not existed in the entire file. So that is why it is producing with the results of not defined. So this is the difference between undefined and not defined. So the next thing is going to be scope chain. Well, in the last class, the last series, we have discussed about what is scope chain, right? So the scope chain simply now we have this call stack. I just remove this one, okay? So if I create an variable like I say var a equal to 10. So now the variable environment is created, initially undefined the memory, and it is created, and a function, I creating a function, and I just say b, and inside this I just leave this, and here I just going to say console.log a, and also I call for the variable b, okay, like this. Okay, so now let us understand how it is, how the memory allocation is happened and how it is executed in the memory global execution context. So first initially the global execution context, it is going to allocate the memory for a as undefined, and it is going to allocate the full space for this function, right? So once it is done, when I say console.log a, now it is read the line, it is 10, so it is going to produce me 10. And also if I execute this, it is nothing inside this, it will be nothing, right? So it will be doing. So when I execute this function, now what happened, the global execution, the b function is get evoked in this code, you can able to see we are evoking that, and here the memory allocation is going to happen. So here I'm not giving any memory, I simply evoke, I just going to access an execution context, I just say in the code console.log a. So if I ask for console.log a, and you may answer is what is the answer that we are going to get now. So the answer that we are going to get now, it's going to be 10. Well, we know that. So why? Because we know the global call scope and the local scope. So if it is a global scope, we can able to access a variable anywhere, anywhere, anything inside an document, we can able to access it. And if it is a local scope, which means if it is inside this function, we can only access inside this function. But that is good. But why? How? This is the question, right? So why? Because whenever we are declaring a variable with a keyword, so we need to understand what is scope. First of all, the scope is nothing but the scope is accessing a variable and function. So where we can able to access a variable and function, so in a place that is called as scopes. So if I am in a global, I am accessing this a variable, if I can able to access it, and we are giving that, okay, I can able to access it out of the function, so it is a global scope. Like that we are giving the name. So the scope is a concept of where we can able to access the value and a function inside our entire document, right? So that is what it is going to be scopes. And scope is directly connected with the lexical environment. This word is very important because this lexical environment, you can see JavaScript is lexically scoped programming language. Everything in JavaScript is a lexically scoped except only one thing. We will discuss about that one thing in the previous class. Also we discussed that is this keyword. We will see that elaborately later. So what is meant by lexical environment, which means where you are where you created the variable, where you assigned the variable, where the variable is declared, it is matter. So based upon that only the scope is determined, not where the variable is called. For example, you can see this variable is called outside the function, this this variable a is called inside the function, but it is producing the result 10, right? It is both are giving access to the variable, which means it does not matter where we are calling the particular variable. So lexical scope is simply where the variable is declared. So here the variable is declared in the outer scope, which means we are having it in our global execution context. So which means we can able to access everywhere. So we will see how we can able to access and how it is working, and we will see that. But if I created this variable inside this function, now this variable is lexically scoped. So where it is declared inside the function, which means it is accessible only inside this function. So now if I run this code, you can get error a is not defined. Why? Because we are accessing the console.log a. The reason we are not getting this, why? Because it is lexically scoped. So the lexical scope is, now I just give a definition. First thing is about lexically scope means where the variable is declared is matter, not where the variable is evoked or executed. It's not matter. Okay, so where it is declared. The second thing is the global. If I say lexical environment, the lexical environment is associated with the memory of its own execution context and also the memory of its parents execution context. So this is how the scoping of global scope, local scope, everything will be work. For example, how can I say simply, right now you can see the first thing in lexical environment what we are discussed. So if the variable lexical environment where it is declared, it is matter, right? So inside the function is variable a is declared, the answer is no. Inside the function there is no variable, right? You can able to see the variable is empty, there is no memory space is allocated for a. So now what happens means, so let us understand the second criteria for lexical environment. For lexical environment, what it will do, so the memory space of its own and also the memory space of its parent. So who is going to be its parent? Well, where it is located. So it is located inside the global execution context, right? So the global execution, not global execution context. So the global inside the document only. So GSE only this function is getting called, right? You can able to see the memory allocation happened inside the global execution context, which means the B function, this B execution context is the child for this global execution context. So if I create in another function inside it, that is going to be the C. Now I accessing console.log A. Now what happened, this where it is inside this here, right? So the memory allocation happens here. So when I evoke the C function, what happened now? On top of it, the C, it's produced its own memory and also code it's created. Okay, so in the memory it will store whatever the variable it holding, it will store it. Let me assign a variable var v var we can say add equal to 10. Okay, not car, it's I want to var add equal to 10, like this I have created. So now we have an add, it will do the undefined and everything, it will do it. Okay, once it is done, what happened, the execution is happened. So now we going to have 10, and also in the code execution context we have this console.log a. So now understand, the first thing, lexical environment means where the variable is declared. Okay, so now here I just ask for console.log C also. Okay, so let us come here. So how the code is executed? So when the global execution is context is happened, so it has the variable a is equal to 10, it is assigned here, and it has the variable b, so it is going to assign here itself. And when I have what are the function that you working, I asked for console.log a and console.log b. Well, in execution in lexical environment we have this a, so we can able to access the variable a. So now the b is going to executed, so it will return in the console 10, and the b is going to execute it. So in the b variable, what is happening, so it has an execution context of console.log a. So it is asking for console.log a, but you can see there is no memory allocation is for a is happened inside the b. There is no such thing is available inside this b, but it need to execute. And also it asks for c, and the c memory allocation, the function allocation, the function is inside the scope, so the function allocation is happened, and they executed the C. Now the global execution context for C is created, and here sorry, here what we are getting, we have the memory, and here inside that we have an variable, let add is equal to 10. So now what are the things that we are executing? So here we are executing console.log a, same like that we are executing console.log b, right? So we are executing console.log, not add and not C, I just execute the add. I just want to execute the add. I just remove this add. So now it is execution. You can see this is not in the memory. A is not in the memory, and here also A is not in the memory, but here the add is in the memory, right? So we know that this console will execute smoothly, and this console add has it, so this console will execute smoothly. But in our local environment, within our lexical environment, we don't have the memory of A and we don't have the memory of B, right? So but it will execute. Let's see how it is working. We will get execution of all. We will get B and we will get A. So it is happened in the A function. Now I just want to execute the C. If I execute the C, now you will get A, and also you will get I think 4 A's you will get. So to differentiate it, I just going to say A is equal to 100 and B is equal to 10. So you can see it is executing the 100, and once it is reaches, this is also executed, but it is not in the memory, and this is also executed, but this is not in the memory, and this is also executed. You can see it will be work like this. So how it is doing? Because of the scoping chain concept. So whenever a lexical environment is created, so the lexical environment determines not only the local environment of that particular execution context, and also the environment of its parents. For example, if I say lexical environment, the memory that allocates for that particular execution context, and also the memory that the parent has. So whenever here it is, there is no access. For example, the variable a, first it will look for its own memory to check it whether the variable a is present or not. If it is not present, then it automatically goes for its parents. Who is the parent? So where it is created, it is created in the B, right? So it is go for its parent execution context and ask for whether B is present or not, like A is present or not. And here it is looking for A is not also here, then it go for its grandparent. So just go here, and here now it asks for A is present or not. Yes, A is present here. Okay, so I want that, let I take it. So it will take it and it will execute each and everything. You can able to see. So here the memory of A is 100. So right now this is how everything works. So when I ask for console.log A, in own memory it does not have. So it is go for its parent and it will ask it. In own memory it does not have the A. So it's go for its memory and also it goes for its parents, grandparents, and it will check. If it is not also in this A, for example, if it is not also present in the global execution context, now what happened? If I declare a variable, A is not defined because it is go and keep on checking, and after top of the global execution context, what will be remains? Nothing will be there, right? So it is going to be only what? It is going to be only empty. So in that space, what is going to happen? It is going to be producing A is not defined. So I will check everywhere A is not defined. Okay. So this kind of activity, the lexical environment, it check for its own scope and also it goes for the global execution. It goes for its parent scope and check for whether the availability of variable is there, and it always have access to their parents data. So it has always access to their parent functions and parents variable and everything. So this kind of behavior is called as scoping chain. You can see this can able to access here and this can able to access it. But you may notice that we have console.log a add is equal to 10, right? So it is in the memory. If I try to access that this variable inside this B, for example, I say console.log add. If I ask for add inside this B variable, what will happen? So if I clear and I run it, you can see reference header add is not defined. So why? Because now comes the concept. So inside the C only we have this add memory. So the parent element cannot access cannot the child variables. The parents are not allowed to get whatever the data and the function that is inside the child element. It will not get. Only the child element can able to get their parent values and parent everything and also their grandparents and keep on going. So this is called a scoping chain. The scope chain is nothing but so the child execution context always have the link to their parents data, and it can be executed and it get the values from the parent, but the parent element will not able to do that kind of thing. That is called as scoping chain. But how it is doing? Well, if the function is get executed, right? If the function is get executed, the variable is created, the variable created here, and also once the function return an another function, the variable get executed and all the variable that is inside the memory, it just get erased, right? So we know that once the function is executed, then the memory it will does not occupy the memory anymore. It will get erased from the global execution context. So there is no reference will be there. So here comes the concept of closures. So the closures is like a small box. So what it will do? So whenever a function is executed, so it stores all the variables and the function inside that small box. So whenever we want to access that parents variable and parents functions, so we can able to access from the closure box. So simply even the function is executed, the function is no longer to execute, we can able to access their variables and everything. That is concept called as closures. And the scoping chain is also worked based because of the closures only. So it is able to work. Okay, so but we will see that the closures much more defined later. So but here what is the takeaway that you need to do? Undefined is not same as the not defined. Undefined is the same temporarily space occupying that the JavaScript allocates to the memory, and once it is done, it will allocate the memory and it will do it. There is no purpose. We are giving undefined to a variable. That is absolutely no purpose for it. So we can avoid that. It is not a good practice. And not defined is something not present in the entire document. So that we need to understand. And undefined is not equal to empty. So undefined is something I take up the space and I am holding the space for someone. So whenever I want, I will give the space to that person. So it's like it says simply like asking our friend to go and stay in the queue for me in the bank. So after you complete after when I come to the bank, you leave the queue, I will join in front of like I will join instead of you, like that. Okay. So we are taking the time. We are asking our friend to please go in the queue, right? So that is what we are doing here. The undefined is doing that. It occupies the space for us, and whenever the execution context reads the code, it will execute it. Okay. So that's what it will do. And scoping chain, we need to understand JavaScript. Everything is lexically scoped, which means the variable where it is declared its matter, not where it is executed. Where it is called, it does not matter. Based upon where the variable is declared, the scopes of those variables and function has been determined. So that is called as lexical environment. The lexical environment, it takes two things. One is going to be where it is declared. If it is declared in global scope, it is accessible everywhere, that we know that. And second thing is the lexical scope. Lexical environment means the scope of its own universe, which means the scope of its own memory and also its parents memory. So if it is a child, its parents memory, it can able to access it, but the parent cannot access their child memory. So this is the difference between undefined and not defined and the scope chain. So it paves the way for the upcoming concept like clauses and type conversions and so much of things we're going to discuss in the upcoming week of Wednesday. So just stay tuned and keep update. Thank you for all for listening this.